As one of my goals this year was to become a better people's person, I've done plenty of homework to learn the psychology, communication, and the energy of charisma. This is everything I've learned from the books that I've read, the classes that I've taken, and people that I've observed, compiled into a single episode for myself to revisit when needed. And I hope that for those of you who may be working on a similar goal, you can find this helpful as well. Welcome back to the It Girl Playbook. This is the Charisma Playbook. Lesson number 1 is to be genuinely interested in others. This is one of the most significant lessons from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, where the author said that you can make more friends in 2 weeks by being genuinely interested in other people than you can in 2 months trying to get other people interested in you. And as someone who always felt like in order to be charismatic, you had to have the funniest joke, the most interesting stories, and you always had to have a witty comeback or the most impressive career, this lesson came as a huge relief. It taught me that charisma isn't about impressing people, it's about making them feel important. Psychologically, this taps into the spotlight effect, which says people overestimate how much others notice them because we're all mainly focused on ourselves. So when someone shows genuine curiosity about us, it feels rare, it feels flattering, and it's memorable. I think Oprah is one of the best and most charismatic interviewers because she understands this. She doesn't dominate the conversation. She makes her guests feel like the most important person in the room. She doesn't pull the spotlight onto her. She lets it reflect back to the person she is interviewing. People love to feel like the star of the show, and so when you shift the conversation towards the other person's passions, their experiences, their achievements, and you give them your full attention and show genuine interest in what they have to share, it makes them feel valued. And as a result, you become magnetic to them. Ironically, you'll notice that the less you try to be interesting and the more you show interest, the more people see you as charismatic. The next lesson is to never outshine the master. This is the first lesson from the book 48 Laws of Power, and again it addresses that belief that I had that in order to charm someone, you had to impress them. Being genuinely interested in others from the first lesson demonstrates for us how making others feel important makes us charismatic, but this law, it shows us that flip side of the same coin, warning us that sometimes trying to impress is the worst thing that you can do. The author opens with this law for a good reason. Power and ego are delicate. People rarely admit it, but insecurities, they can run deep. And so when you try too hard to shine, it can actually make others feel threatened. This taps into the psychology of status and ego. People are drawn to those who make them feel important, not those who make them feel small. And so when you take up too much spotlight, it triggers a sense of competition in others, even subconsciously. In the book, the author shares a real historical story of someone who was obviously trying to make a good impression on the king to get on his good side, and so to impress him, he threw this lavish party, and the party was a great hit, and everyone was so impressed by the party that the king had the guy sentenced. People have egos, and because no one wants to admit it, it's difficult to identify, making it dangerous to quote-unquote impress, because to the wrong people, it makes them feel threatened. By you impressing, it shines light on insecurities, it makes them feel like you are stealing their spotlight, and as a result, instead of you charming them, they now feel threatened. Don't make people feel small to look big. Spotlight them, not yourself. Casanova was infamously known to be one of the most charismatic men of history. He wasn't necessarily the most attractive, handsome man at the time, but he was incredibly charming for this exact reason. He spotlighted the ladies he interacted with. He shifted the focus to spotlight them, how beautiful they were, how special they were, how interesting and how impressive they were, not him, and as a result, clearly very successful successful. If your goal is to be charismatic, stop trying to dominate the room with how amazing you are. Shift the focus back to them. I'm a firm believer that you should be proud of your achievements and that you should be able to share them with people who can and will celebrate you. But the fact of the matter is, we live in a world where not everyone will, and you can use that to your advantage and to your charm strategically. Lesson number 3, confidence is charming. This is a lesson I came to learn after I was charmed by Gia from a show I was watching called Singles Inferno. If you've seen the show, you would probably agree with me that Sungjia was one of the most magnetic women there. Not because she was the loudest, not because she was trying to impress anyone, but because she was confident. You could feel it in the way she spoke about herself, how she carried herself, and the way she took care of herself. When you love yourself and pour into yourself so much, you feel whole, and that is what confidence is. And when you're confident, you learn to appreciate others instead of competing with others. For example, when Gia and another woman went on a date with the same guy, when he clearly only showed interest in the other girl, Gia just sat there and enjoyed her coffee. She didn't feel the need to try to impress the guy and compete with the other woman for his attention and for his interests. When someone lacks confidence, it often shows up as overcompensating, bragging, or being overly critical, behaviors that make others feel tense, judged, or just uncomfortable. That's why confidence isn't just attractive, it's also comforting. Because the fact of the matter is, self-love is a mirror, right? If you feel good about yourself, then you will make others feel good about themselves. The same is true for the opposite. When you don't feel good about yourself, you project that outwards and make others feel bad. And no one wants to be around someone who makes them feel bad about themselves. This is why confident people are naturally just charming, but confidence starts with how you choose to love, respect, and pour into yourself. And when you do, when you love yourself, when you respect yourself, and when you pour into yourself, like Gia, others will follow. The next lesson is the Pratfall Effect. The Pratfall Effect is a fascinating concept from social psychology. People like you more when you're competent, but also human, aka a little imperfect. Many of us want to understandably make our best impression, and so we want to portray that best version of ourselves. Just 5 minutes scrolling on social media is proof of this. But the problem comes when we confuse best version with perfect version. Perfection creates distance. It feels intimidating and just unrelatable. When someone seems too flawless, it's hard for others to connect with them on a human level. Jennifer Lawrence is a great example of this. Remember that time when she tripped on the Oscar stairs? Instead of panicking, she laughed it off and even joked about it. She was already seen as talented and successful, which covers the competent component, so that little slip made her seem more down to earth and relatable, and people adored her even more. This is the same reason why I think so many people adore Tom Holland, who is known for accidentally revealing Marvel spoilers during interviews, making him even more beloved because his slip-ups show his excitement and authenticity. He's clearly very competent as an actor, and so his clumsy honesty comes off as charming. You'll find that the core pattern to each of these examples follows someone who is already competent, credible, or even admired. They make a small mistake or admits a flaw and handles it with confidence and maybe a little bit of humor. A lot of us either get so defensive or incredibly ashamed, but at the end of the day, it's what makes us human, and it can actually work in our favor because it makes you more relatable. So if you want to be magnetic, learn to embrace those occasional slip-ups and stop obsessing over being perfect. Competence earns respect, but being human earns the heart. The next lesson is the enemy effect. You've probably heard of the saying, the enemy of an enemy is my friend. This pretty much captures the very essence of the enemy effect, a psychological phenomenon where people bond deeply and quickly over a shared opponent or challenge. There are good reasons as to why it's so effective, but before we explore it, it's important to note that the quote-unquote enemy, it doesn't have to be a person. It could be a situation, a toxic workplace, a stressful class, or even a shared struggle like financial stress or a bad relationship. It's that common threat or obstacle that reinforces a us versus them dynamic, which creates psychological trust quickly. It also triggers the most activating emotions, which we'll cover next, but the enemy effect leverages that to create connections that are deeper and more quickly. One of the most obvious examples is from the movie Mean Girls. Katie and Janice initially bonded over their shared dislike for Regina George. It created an alliance that drove the entire plot of the movie. But again, it doesn't always have to be a person. Some of my closest friends came from overcoming a mutual enemy, and for one of them, it was our mutual dislike for our jobs. And so we started working together to build something of our own so that we could afford to quit our jobs. And so how do we use this to increase our charisma? Try to identify a mutual pain point, not in a manipulative way, but in a human way to connect and align together to overcome it so that you can establish this us versus them type of bond. If someone mentions that they're stressed about school, a tough client, or even the weather, lean into that commonality, saying, "Oh my goodness, me too. I thought I was the only one." Immediately, that shifts the dynamic from strangers to teammates. And I think this lesson holds so much value because charisma isn't always about being positive and bubbly. Sometimes it's saying, "I get it. I've been there too. We're on the same team." And that shared understanding creates trust, and trust is magnetic. The next lesson is activating the right emotions. If there's one group of people who can charm like a fox, it's people in sales or marketing. There was this class that I took on viral marketing by Jonah Berger that taught me one of the most effective ways to get people to act, whether that's buying something, sharing something, or simply remembering you. You have to make them feel something. But the thing is, not all emotions are created equal. Emotions drive behavior. That's a fact. People might forget what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. However, not every emotion creates the same level of engagement. The professor explained about the difference between low arousal emotions like sadness and contentment and high arousal emotions like awe, excitement, anger, or even surprise. High arousal emotions get people moving. They get people talking and sharing because they activate energy. Think about it. When you're deeply sad, maybe after you've gone through a breakup, you usually withdraw, you stay in your room under a blanket eating ice cream. But when you're inspired, when you're shocked or fired up, you feel compelled to do something, whether that's sharing a story or connecting with the person who made you feel that way. This is why emotional Super Bowl ads go viral. The funny, awe-inspiring, or even shocking ones get people talking. Remember the Kanye one where he spent all of his marketing budget getting an ad on the Super Bowl that he didn't have money for the actual production and had to record on his phone. It was shocking, it was funny, and as a result, it had people talking and it went viral. The same with Always and their hashtag Like a Girl campaign that taps into pride and inspiration. It had people talking. The ads that simply talk about facts and the features of their products just aren't as memorable. Some of the most successful influencers leverage this as well because it keeps people hooked. They share stories that make you feel excited, curious, or even a little bit outraged that get people to share with their friends, check out the things that they talk about, or even baiting them into leaving comments. It works because strong emotions deepen connection. Charisma isn't about being fake or dramatic, it's about being emotionally intelligent. And by applying this beyond just sales and marketing, it can make you a very emotionally intelligent person because not only are you emotionally connecting with people, which is always more effective because remember what we said, people can forget what you say, but they won't forget how you make them feel. But beyond just that, you connect on the most activating emotions. And last but not least, lesson number 7, maintain mystery and intrigue. This principle came from Robert Greene's The Art of Seduction, which says to reveal yourself gradually. And from so many people I've observed and we've explored together, like Alexa Dummy or Kate Moss from our Supermodel episode, it has supported this. You can define what mystery means to you, but the point is to not overshare. Humans are naturally curious, and oversharing removes that curiosity and intrigue. Psychologically, this ties into Cialdini's principle of scarcity from the book Influence. We value what feels rare and exclusive. And so when someone is overly available or gives everything away up front, the perceived value drops. On the flip side, when you maintain a little mystery and when there's still something left to discover, you create intrigue and allure. A lot of celebrities do this when they show up at events, stay for a little bit, and excuse themselves saying that they have somewhere else to be even when they don't. It drives up their social value. This doesn't mean being cold or playing games, it's about balance. Warmth draws people in, but mystery keeps them hooked. Many high status people have mastered this as well. They're friendly, they engage in conversations, but they always seem to have somewhere else to be. And that limited access signals value. Charisma thrives on intrigue. When people feel like there's more to learn about you, they lean in. Mystery makes you memorable because you become a story in progress, not a closed book. So be warm, be engaging, be friendly, be kind, all of that, but don't put your entire personality, your entire life story on the table right away. You can keep a little bit for later, and that's how you stay magnetic. There's so many tips, advice, rules, laws, mindsets that explore the art of charm. Charisma comes in all different styles, but I feel like the ones highlighted today felt the most universal and would apply to, if not most, to everyone. These are tools that you can take and practice to build charisma as a skill, but feel free to apply it in a way that feels authentic to you so that your charm is genuine to you. I hope that these tips, lessons, psychological and social phenomenons will help you like I know it will help me. Other than that, that's it for today. Be sure to check out the It Girl newsletter sent directly to your inbox for your notes and reference to join in on the conversation and to help decide on what we can explore next. I hope to see you in the next one, and in the meantime, as always, stay hot. Bye!